Mr. Speaker.
Order. Questions for oral answer. Ms. Denise Poh.
Mr. Speaker, sir, bilingualism is a cornerstone of Singapore's education system. Under our bilingual policy, students are required to offer English and a mother tongue language, MTL. Students may only be granted MTL exemption under exceptional circumstances, such as if they join our school midstream without having learned an official MTL, or when they have certified special educational needs that severely affect their ability to cope with their overall learning. Over the past 3 years, the proportion of primary 6 students exempted from offering MTL due to special educational needs have remained fairly stable at about 2.3% annually. MTL exemption applications and appeals are evaluated by an MOE panel. The panel comprises specialists with expertise in curriculum provisions as well as special educational needs. Depending on the complexity of the case, the MOE panel may also consult clinicians in the healthcare sector in their evaluations of the applications for MTL exemption. Students with difficulties in reading and writing MTL can take up Foundation MTL in Primary 5 and Primary 6, and the MTL-B curriculum at secondary and junior college levels. The Foundation MTL and MTL-B curriculum focuses on the development of oral and listening skills with a reduced demand on writing skills. This allows the students to continue to have exposure to learning MTL.
Ms. Denise Poh.
Thank you, SBS, for the answer. I strongly support MOE's direction for bilingualism, and for several reasons, of course, linked to our heritage, our roots, and our culture. But I've received quite a number of appeals and a lot of concerns as well from some families. So I'm wondering if MOE has used this tool of exemption very bluntly, and several cases I think we've submitted to MOE as well, so bluntly to the extent that the families are really struggling and even thinking of future plans, whether they should remain even in the education system, local education system, after the compulsory education years. So number one, I'd like to ask MOE if can we again relook at the ways by which we make these decisions. The panels, are there can we fine-tune these decisions and consider those cases of merit, especially if they're strongly supported by a very well-respected psychologists or psychiatrists in the field? And also, finally, to ask if MOE can more creatively come up with more ideas so that people who actually go through this system of learning mother tongue do not end up actually hating it or disliking it so much or dropping it the minute they officially can. So ask for your indulgence in that.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank member Ms. Denise Poh for her supplementary questions, and I would like to also assure her and the members in the House that MOE reviews and updates the criteria for MTL exemption regularly to ensure that the objective of MTL exemptions are met and also remain relevant. So I want to assure her that. I also want to reiterate that the MTL exemption is granted to students with special educational needs. Allow me to just share some of the consideration by the MOE panel. First and foremost, when we receive an application, we will look at the diagnosis by the psychologist that's submitted. Number two, we will also liaise with the student's school to understand how the student is managing his or her learning. Number three, we will also work with the school to better understand, is the student responding well to the teaching and instruction during the mother tongue language lessons. All these are important inputs for the decision. At the same time, the fourth consideration that we look at is how well the student is coping with the overall studies, right? So that's one. And for students who submit MTL exemption application on grounds of special educational needs, these are the four key considerations. And I mentioned earlier, we do review the criteria from time to time. I want to give you assurance. And I also want to assure the members that MOE HQ, we take every MTL exemption application seriously, and we will look at it very thoroughly.
Mr. Yee Chia Sing.
I received feedback of some of the families that have been working abroad for many years and their kids actually grew up overseas and are in their teens, and when they come back, supposed to enter secondary school, and they have to suddenly study mother tongue and they don't even speak a single word of Mandarin. So is that also grounds for exemption? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Mr. Yee Chia Sing for his supplementary questions. Earlier on in my answer, I did specify that there are two target segments of students that we will consider granting the MTL exemption. The first group will be students who are severely affected because of their special educational needs. The second group will be students who joined our Singapore education system midstream and they did not have the opportunity to learn MTL. So yes, we do consider the application for MTL exemption by the group that is highlighted by Mr. Yee. And I want to assure Mr. Yee that for those applications, we will evaluate factors like the applicant's learning history, previous country of residence, admission level, and also the extent of home language environment.
Ms. Denise Poh.
Just reverting to before Mr. Chia,
Mr. Yee.
Mr. Yee's question, yeah. Is it true, SPS, that one of the factors for consideration is that the applicant or the child of the applicant must fail every subject before they can be exempted MTL? That's one question. And second is, I do think that even, just a comment on Mr. Yee's question, I do think that even if people from overseas or children come back, I do think there's a space also for them, for us to encourage them in the learning of MTL. It's just that I'd like MOE to consider, since it's in the spirit of lifelong learning, is there any way by which you could convene a group so that we can continue with this learning of mother tongue language or other languages that are useful, you know, or of interest for the longer term beyond the formal school years?
Ms. Poh for her supplementary questions. The answer to the first question about the marks, there is no arithmetic formula per se. I did share the four key factors that the MOE panel will consider, and one of the consideration is how well they are coping in their overall study, whether is there a need for us to make adjustment to the students' total academic load. That's one. I think it's worthwhile for me to just take a few seconds to reiterate that in MOE, we're very committed to support and enable every student to learn MTL at a level that he or she is capable of, something that Ms. Poh earlier said that she's fully supportive. And this is why the MTL curriculum is differentiated to cater to the needs of students based on their varying abilities. I give you an example. We do have students with special educational needs who have chosen to take foundation MTL at primary 5 and primary 6. And the focus of the foundation MTL really is to help them to develop strong foundation in their oral and listening skills with less demand on writing. Let me be specific. You highlighted about marks, etc. So for example, if a P5 student takes foundation MTL, he or she, at this point in time, does not need to write a single character or word in MTL during exam. Why is that so? Because 55% of the marks is based on oral exam, 30% of the marks is based on listening compre, the other 15% of the marks is based on a comprehension with multiple choice answer. So there are students who have chosen to take foundation MTL so that their children will be able to build up their foundation in MTL because they know bilingualism is advantage to the child. The third question, yes, this is why we are working with Skills Future Singapore to also bring MTL lessons into the heartlands to allow adult learners to continue to hone their proficiency in MTL.